Wait, what? You're telling me that Paul Heyman, the same Paul Heyman who's been playing the victim, the same Paul Heyman who's been sitting there with those innocent eyes acting like he's just Roman Reigns' loyal counsel, might actually be the puppet master pulling the strings behind one of the most devastating splits in recent WWE history? The destruction of Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed's alliance wasn't just some random backstage beef, it wasn't just ego, and it sure as hell wasn't an accident. What if I told you that every single move, every calculated attack, every moment of chaos we've witnessed on Monday Night Raw has Paul Heyman's fingerprints all over it? And before you click away thinking this is just another conspiracy theory, stick with me because the evidence is so damning, so perfectly orchestrated, that once you see it, you'll never look at Paul Heyman the same way again. But I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button, because if this video gets to 10,000 likes, I'm going to drop a part 2 that reveals who else is involved in this conspiracy, and trust me, that name will blow your mind. Drop a comment right now with your theory, share this with every wrestling fan you know, and let's expose the truth together. Now, let's rewind to where this all began, because nothing in WWE happens by accident, and Paul Heyman doesn't make moves without thinking 10 steps ahead. Remember when Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed first started their reign of terror? These two were unstoppable. Two absolute monsters, two forces of nature that couldn't be contained. They were running through the roster like a wrecking ball through a house of cards. Every single superstar that stepped in their path got demolished, destroyed, obliterated. The WWE Universe was in awe, commentators were losing their minds, and backstage, everyone was wondering the same thing: who could possibly stop these guys? But here's where it gets interesting, here's where the pieces start falling into place like a perfectly executed con. Who benefits most from chaos on Monday Night Raw? Who has built an entire legendary career on manipulation, on playing both sides, on creating situations that only he can control? Paul Heyman. Think about it. This is a man who managed Brock Lesnar and made him look like an unstoppable beast. This is the same man who stood beside CM Punk during his infamous 434-day title reign. This is the same man who helped orchestrate Roman Reigns' transformation into the tribal chief and his historic title run. Paul Heyman doesn't just manage superstars, he creates empires, he manipulates narratives, and he destroys anyone who gets in his way. So what happens when two monsters like Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed are running wild, creating havoc, and potentially threatening the very power structure that Heyman has spent years building? He eliminates the threat. But not in an obvious way. Oh no, that's not Heyman's style. He doesn't get his hands dirty directly. Instead, he plants seeds, he whispers doubts, he creates suspicion, and he sits back and watches as everything crumbles from the inside. It's genius. It's diabolical. And it's exactly what happened. Let's talk about the timeline, because timing is everything in professional wrestling, and Paul Heyman understands timing better than anyone else in this business. Right around the time when Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed were at their absolute peak, when they looked completely invincible, suddenly things started going wrong. Small things at first, miscommunications during matches, awkward moments backstage, tension that you could cut with a knife. Now, the WWE tried to play it off like it was natural progression, like these two alphas were bound to clash eventually. But was it really that simple? Or was someone backstage, someone with connections, someone with influence, someone like Paul Heyman, whispering in the right ears, creating doubt, making sure that these two powerhouses started questioning each other? Think about Heyman's history. This man turned on Brock Lesnar. He orchestrated one of the most shocking betrayals in WrestleMania history. He's capable of playing the long game better than anyone. He can smile in your face for months, make you believe he's your most loyal ally, and then bam, he stabs you in the back when you least expect it. That's not speculation, that's documented history. So why would anyone think he's above creating division between Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed? Here's where it gets even more suspicious. In the weeks leading up to their split, where was Paul Heyman? He was everywhere. He was more visible on Raw than he'd been in months. Now, WWE wants you to believe he was just there supporting his clients, doing his job as the wise man. But every time Heyman showed up, every time he had a segment, somehow, someway, chaos followed for Breaker and Reed. Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences, not in professional wrestling, and definitely not when Paul Heyman is involved. Let's examine the actual split, the moment everything fell apart. It happened so suddenly, so explosively, that it caught everyone off guard. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed went from brothers in arms to sworn enemies in the span of one night. One night. Does that sound organic to you? Does that sound like a natural evolution of a storyline? Or does that sound like someone lit a match and threw it into a powder keg that had been carefully prepared, strategically positioned, and deliberately designed to explode at exactly the right moment? Paul Heyman is the master of the calculated explosion. He did it with the original ECW, he did it with the invasion angle, and he's doing it now with the entire Monday Night Raw landscape. But wait, there's more evidence, and this is where it gets really interesting. Pay attention to who benefited from the Breaker-Reed split. When these two monsters were united, they were a threat to everyone, including Roman Reigns, including the bloodline, including everything that Paul Heyman has invested his time and energy into protecting. But once they split, once they started focusing on destroying each other instead of conquering the entire roster, suddenly, the landscape became a lot safer for Heyman's interests. Suddenly, other superstars had a chance to shine. Suddenly, the power structure that Heyman has carefully maintained wasn't under siege anymore. You're telling me that's a coincidence? Come on. And let's talk about Heyman's relationship with authority figures in WWE. This man has connections that go back decades. He's got relationships with everyone from Vince McMahon to Triple H to every single person in a position of power backstage. You think he couldn't pull strings? You think he couldn't plant ideas? You think he couldn't manipulate situations to create the exact outcome he wanted? Paul Heyman has been doing this since before most of the current roster was even born. He's a master manipulator, a genius strategist, and someone who always has an agenda. Here's what I think happened, here's how the whole thing went down, and I need you to stay with me because this is going to blow your mind. Paul Heyman saw Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed as a growing threat. He recognized that if these two continued their path of destruction, they would eventually come for everything he's built, everything he's protected. So he started working his magic. Maybe he had conversations with creative. Maybe he suggested storyline directions that would create tension. Maybe he spoke directly to one or both of the superstars, planting seeds of doubt about their partnership. Hey, you know Bronson's getting all the credit for your victories. Braun's trying to take the spotlight from you. Small comments, innocent on the surface, but deadly effective over time. And then, once the foundation was cracked, once the trust was compromised, all Heyman had to do was create one situation, one moment where tensions would boil over, and boom, the alliance explodes. Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed destroy each other, they take themselves out of the equation, and Paul Heyman sits back, probably with that smug smile on his face, knowing that once again, he's outplayed everyone. He's eliminated a threat without anyone even realizing he was involved. That's vintage Paul Heyman. That's the wise man operating at his absolute best. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but where's the proof? Where's the smoking gun? And that's exactly the point. Paul Heyman is too smart to leave obvious evidence. He's too experienced to make rookie mistakes. The fact that we can't find definitive proof is actually proof itself of how good he is at what he does. This is a man who's been playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers for over 30 years. You think he's going to get caught? You think he's going to be sloppy? No way. But there are breadcrumbs if you know where to look. Watch the old footage. Watch Heyman's facial expressions when Breaker and Reed are on screen. Watch how he reacts in backstage segments. There's something there, something in his eyes, a flicker of satisfaction, a hint of knowledge that he has information nobody else has. Body language doesn't lie, and Paul Heyman's body language tells a story that WWE doesn't want us to see. And here's the thing that should terrify everyone on the Monday Night Raw roster: if Heyman can orchestrate the destruction of two of the most dominant superstars in recent memory, what else is he capable of? Who else is he manipulating right now? What other alliances is he working to destroy? What other careers is he influencing from the shadows? Paul Heyman isn't just a manager, he's not just a counsel, he's a kingmaker and a kingbreaker, and right now, he's operating with impunity because nobody sees him as the threat that he truly is. The WWE Universe needs to wake up. We need to start paying attention to every move Heyman makes. We need to start questioning every coincidence, every random occurrence, every unexpected turn of events. Because I guarantee you, if we start connecting the dots, if we start seeing the full picture, we're going to realize that Paul Heyman's influence extends far beyond what we ever imagined. This Breaker Reed situation? This might just be the tip of the iceberg. And before we wrap this up, I want you to think about something else. What if this is just the beginning? What if destroying the Breaker Reed alliance was just phase one of a much larger plan? What if Heyman is working towards something even bigger, something that's going to shake the entire WWE to its foundation? That's the terrifying possibility we're facing right now. Because with Paul Heyman, there's always another move, there's always another scheme, and there's always another victim lined up. So here's what I need from you, the Ring Rumble family. First, if you've made it this far, you're clearly as invested in uncovering the truth as I am, and that means you need to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We're building a community of fans who aren't afraid to ask the tough questions, who aren't satisfied with the surface-level storylines, who want to dig deeper and understand what's really happening in WWE. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because we're going to keep following this story wherever it leads, and trust me, it's going to lead somewhere explosive. Second, I need you to engage with this video. Hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, tell me if you think I'm onto something or if you think I'm completely wrong. Healthy debate is what makes this community amazing, and I want to hear every single opinion. And share this video everywhere. Post it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, send it to your wrestling group chats, because the more people talking about this, the more pressure there is on WWE to address it, to acknowledge it, to maybe even confirm what we all suspect is true. The truth about Paul Heyman and his role in destroying Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed's alliance will come out. It might take time, it might take more investigation, but the truth always comes to light. And when it does, when we finally get that confirmation, when we finally see Paul Heyman exposed for the mastermind that he is, you'll remember that you heard it here first on Ring Rumble. This is where we connect the dots before anyone else. This is where we expose the truth before the mainstream catches on. This is your channel for real wrestling analysis, for deep dives, for the stories behind the stories. Paul Heyman, if you're watching this, and I know you probably are because you're always watching, always monitoring, always aware of what people are saying about you, just know that we're onto you. The Ring Rumble family sees through the manipulation. We see through the schemes. And we're not going to stop investigating until the full truth is revealed. Your days of operating in the shadows are numbered, and when the light finally shines on everything you've done, it's going to be biblical. To everyone else, thank you for watching, thank you for being part of this incredible community, and remember to stay vigilant, stay informed, and never accept the storylines at face value. There's always more happening behind the curtain, and here at Ring Rumble, we're dedicated to pulling that curtain back and showing you everything. Until next time, keep rumbling, keep questioning, and keep demanding the truth. Peace.